Welcome to SLT to Talk. I'm your co-host, RudeBoyArtist, alongside
MrsMelaninReigns, and we are here today with Mia. Mia, how are you?
Doing good. Thanks for asking.
Doing good. Okay. You want to give us a little brief introduction about who you are, what you do?
Okay. I am Mia Musa. I am a curator, a writer, producer, educator, consultant. Yeah, I do a lot. I wear a lot of hats. I work with a lot of people, community organizers.
Multifaceted.
So, Mel, why don't you tell our podcast a little bit about your writing journey and how long you've been writing for and what inspired you to write?
Okay. I was that kid that was always reading and writing. So I started with like short stories probably when I was in like the first or second grade. And then as I got older, like middle school, I think is when I was introduced to poetry. And then by high school, it was more so like essays and stuff. And also when I first learned like screenwriting and like playwriting, I went to Temple University for African American Studies, but also media studies. So did some screenwriting there. And so here and there, like I've written articles here and there. Been published for like City Paper and like Run Cake, stuff, publications like that. But what I'm working on now, by actually working on like a TV pilot, that started around probably this time last year actually. And Imani Network, he just started his own network here in Baltimore. He was in Las Vegas for a while as a professional editor and producer. And he decided to move back to Baltimore, start his own network. I started seeing his stuff. I thought it was really cool. And I'm the type of person that if I like what I see, I want to see how I can be of service. So I just reached out and said, this is something I always wanted to see, like how can I help? And I showed up a couple times to volunteer. And then Steve of Giga House Media was there, and he found out I did comedy, and he was interested in working with more comedians and doing skits and sketches. From there, we ended up like producing little skits, and from one of those skits, we were just like, we should try like a sitcom concept. So we went back to Imani, see if he was interested in it. And I was just saying, like, you know what, I've been working with this idea in my head for like the past decade. I'm not exactly sure how I wanted to come together, but this is what I want to see. And then we were working pretty much weekly to shape the show and get it together. And then August we had filmed it, and then right now, like I said, we just kind of been running it through like the film festival circuit. So it's called My Little Gig. The lead name is Lauren, and she is about to leave her apartment. It's supposed to be kind of like post-COVID time where like there's a rent moratorium and then it goes away and then you still have to owe that money. And so her scrambling and doing different gigs in order to make the money. So it's to explore like the gig economy, explore like what people are going through right now with like the housing crisis and just like the changing political landscape constantly and the constant changes. And it's it's been testing well, it's been doing well. People think it's funny, that's the whole point. But yeah.
Right. So tell us more about My Little Gig. How long did it take you to actually write that? Like throughout the process, how did you continue to move forward and complete your body of work to be able to execute it?
Right. So I never actually wrote like a traditional script for it. I wrote an outline and I wrote some dialogue and I wrote some points where there could be some improv. Most of the actors in it are comics themselves. Comics tend to be really good at thinking on their feet and improv. And I asked certain people to be involved based on what and who the character was and who I could trust to execute it. But before getting to that point, me and the team, we had weekly meetings. We had a structure, and we just put different scenarios out that we thought was funny. Then we shaped the scenarios to say, okay, episode 1 should be this. Well, before we even did that, I'm sorry, we figured out where we wanted the story to start, where we wanted the story to end, and what like peak point in the middle would have us guessing whether or not she's going to meet her goal. And then from there, the different scenarios that we put in place, the different elements that we know that we want to have, we put it in an outline and put it together to shape the episode. So episode per episode, we'll go back, do the outline, do like the shot list, the editors and the other producers working with me to really try to figure out like, okay, what is it that's in your head that you want to do? How do you want to do this? How are we going to do this? And so the first episode, we were able to shoot it in 2 days. We had 2 full days. One was in studio. One was just like out of my house and, at a nearby lot. And it just came together. It came together. I think it took a couple months after that to have it edited. And that's where we are now. So again, I want to get the rest of the episodes done. We just trying to raise money for it, so we can actually compensate everyone for participating. So yeah, in the middle of kind of running the campaign for that and like seeking sponsorship and writing grants and those type of things.
So the whole other process.
Yeah.
So what has been your biggest inspiration behind the production of the film? So what inspired you the most about it, like currently, as far as the current scenes and how did you curate that whole environment?
I like TV shows that really inspire me. The ones that have familiar characters that you don't usually see on TV, especially when it's like black leading. And so a lot of what's in it is inspired by when I was maybe in my 20s and on the underground scene, being a part of this party, this open mic, between here, New York, whatever, Philly, different parts of the country and different parts of the world. And I'm just like, this movement is happening across the country and across the world, and you don't really see it play out on TV like that. Now, with the popularization of like Afro-punk and just other things popularizing like underground movements, you start to see the aesthetic, but still just like the reality of just kind of how people move and like the inner workings of relationships and that. So that's ultimately kind of what I wanted to bring to screen, but it was just like, okay, what story is driving that? And one thing about like that scene is that most people are artists of some sort, and a lot of people are seeking this level of freedom and not wanting to just have this traditional job. But it could just because they like have ADHD or because of like whatever political, leaning. And so you might be a painter, but you're also a babysitter and a photographer, and you drive Uber sometimes, and you do DoorDash and Uber Eats. And when you're in that lifestyle where it's like constantly digging, you end up in the most unique scenarios. So one day you might literally be like in the trenches in the hood, you know what I mean? Even if like you're just a part of the underground market, you know what I mean? And then the next day you end up in the mansion. And so I thought, one, that's a cool way to explore like these different scenarios, but a cool way to explore Baltimore, because Baltimore on screen has been very like one way, and that's the only story that we keep telling when it comes out of Baltimore. And I'm not trying to stray away from that because that's a part of our reality, you know what I mean? But there's so much more to it than that, and I felt like using gigs as a driver, as a catalyst, would be able to show like the uniqueness of Baltimore, the tapestry, the absurdity. Like I really like absurd things. Like my shows that I'm watching to like gear me up for this is like Atlanta, Sierra from Detroit. I just discovered Detroiters, Southside. Some of these again like quirky but urban, shows that just kind of show a different side of cities like Chicago, Detroit, Atlanta, and now Baltimore. That's kind of the style, you could say.
Okay. And out of all the things that you do, which of those things or what other things do you do to find like peace, an element of peace, an element of calm, a break from all of the different hats that you wear?
I don't know. I think taking time to just like sit or lay in gratitude, you know what I mean? Whatever you're gracious about. Like if I'm feeling overwhelmed, You know, I look at it from the opposite side, or look at it from like how people are looking at me. Because people come to me and feel inspired and just like, oh, I don't know how you doing it and all that. And I'm just like, I'm losing my mind. That's how I'm doing it. Like, don't I see these gray hairs in my head? But then I'm just like, okay, instead of looking at it like, oh, you got too much going on, you're so overwhelmed, look at it like, wow, look at what you've been able to accomplish, even with all the challenges, you know. Then I think about who is around me to make that happen and make those accomplishments. And now I'm showing gratitude for them, you know. It's a simple day. Today is a nice day after like it being freezing. Being really appreciative to not focused on, well, tomorrow going to be cold again or tomorrow going to be rainy and cloudy. I'm focused on the right now and the fact that right now it's sunny. It's a nice little day. It worked out for what it worked out for. You know what I mean? So I just take those. I try to take those moments. And if I need extra help, you know, I'm gonna end up at a spa somewhere, like in the woods. But you know, I sit in myself and try to do that.
Gratitude. I love it.
I just have one more question for you. As far as inspiration, what is your hot, or what can I say? What message do you give to those who are, you know, the youths who are aspiring to be a film writer or film creator or anything involved in the arts? What words of encouragement can you give to them?
You know, at this point, the way that industry is, there's an expectation for you to just get it done and show and prove something. And at this point, we all have the basic tools to do that. Most people have some sort of smartphone. You know, I was working with students on a sketch comedy class. We used my phone, bought a little camera to put together, you know, their film. And it's okay to start like that. And there's major people that are using some of the same tools. So it's just like digging in, creating, not trying to make it look like something else, not trying to count it out. You know, this is what I tell any type of artist, whether they do music, film, or whatever. Allow the industry later and managers later to tell you how and what you should do. Don't do that to yourself on an independent level and you just starting out and you worried about, you know, metrics and audience. Like, that's not your job right now. Your job is to create and find your artistic voice and to do what you want to do. You never know what the thing is that's going to hit. You know, you never know what somebody else from the outside looking in is going to try to craft you to. So you want to make sure that you have a strong sense of self first and don't overthink and, you know, try to limit yourself and stop yourself. Don't be worried about what resources you don't have. Like, we did this project with a $2,000 budget, just us putting our money together. And, you know, I just went to the LA Comedy Film Fest and I was just amazed because I'm watching projects from all over the world, you know, from Australia. You know, I was in West Hollywood, there was stuff from Hollywood, there was stuff from New York. They had these long lists of credits. We had a 3-person crew. They had all of these people that sponsored it. You could tell that a lot of these films cost at least $50K. The one filmmaker on the panel was talking about like how the deposit for something that he rented was $20,000. And here we are in the middle of them, in the midst with these people that had these much larger budgets for something that cost $2,000 to make. You know what I mean? So it's like, it really is about, you know, you being creative, you attracting the resources that you need, you building the community that you need. You know, everybody has this one little thing and not worrying about it being perfect on the end. Like I was watching, and of course, Issa Rae is an inspiration too, and like Adventures of Awkward Black Girl. So I was watching those episodes and I was watching how like the first 2 episodes looked like somebody probably made it on the phone. And then by the 10th episode, it had much higher production value. You know what I mean? So just think if they would have waited to get to that much higher production value. And honestly, as a fan of it, I didn't say this on camera, but a lot of, when it got to that, a lot of the audience fell off. So it's like they weren't looking for all those extra bells and whistles. They was looking for that genuine story of, again, a familiar character that you didn't really see on TV at that time, you know? And that's the reason why it hit, and that's the reason why it took both her and Tracy Oliver who did Girls Trip and Harlem and all these other shows and movies. Both of them were the producers and writers on that, and that's why that took them to that next level.
Okay. So it's been absolutely great talking to you. You highlighted a lot of the Speak Life Sport themes, authenticity, creativity, and your ability to execute is inspiring to me. I've been to a few different things in a few different areas that you work on. So thank you for being here with us. Please share with us where we can find you and highlight My Lord Gig for us.
Thank you. Thank y'all for having me. Y'all can go to my website, MrsMelaninReigns.com. Hopefully by the time you see this, I actually updated. Instagram, me and Musa Comedy. And then My Lord Gig, MYLORGIG on Instagram. It also has a page on Imani Network. So if you go to ImaniNetwork.com, then you can find more information on that and YouTube. But definitely please look that up and see how you can continue to support it, as well as see the next screening. We're going to be showing at some local festivals here in Baltimore. So please stay tuned.
Okay.
Again, we want to thank y'all for tuning in to SLT The Talk podcast. I'm your co-host, RudeBoyArtist, alongside
Mrs. Melanin Reigns, and it's been an honor to speak with you all again.